reportedly on Saturday nights, running backs like Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, some of the best running backs in the league, held a Zoom meeting on Saturday basically discussing how do we improve this situation? How do we let our own get paid? How do we allow our own to get paid? Obviously we understand running back is, as I've said numerous times on the show, it is the last unprotected position in all football. I mean, we know the rules protecting quarterbacks. We protect kickers, for crying out loud. We protect defensive linemen with the tripping call. We protect offensive linemen, in that regard as well. We protect defensive backs, wide receivers. We really don't protect running backs. We protect kickers and punters. We don't protect running backs. You can hit them however you want. Hit, helmet to helmet. Unless they're a pass catcher, you can hit a running back however you want. And a big reason that running backs often just get one contract. Unless you're Adrian Peterson, unless you are a Hall of Fame level player, first ballot, no doubt about it, you usually just get one contract. One big contract, rather. And these three are like, can we get one? Quarterbacks, if they last long enough, get three. Sometimes, if you're Tom Brady or somebody, four. Wide receivers get some big ones. Aaron Donald, best defensive player in the football for the last decade, has gotten some big ones as well. Can we get a little slice of the pie, as Jerry Jones would say? And right now, the NFL teams are saying no. I do not blame, in the slightest, running backs for being, pissed off about it. Seeing their teammates in other positions get paid, and they're like, hey, we're sitting here with nothing. We got nothing. We had nothing to the table. Totally get their frustration. Simultaneously, I absolutely agree with NFL franchises, in this case, the Raiders, the Cowboys, and the Giants, for not paying them. Let me explain. We've had data over the past decade or so showing us that, paying running backs, it's not as appealing as it might sound in the long run. So I did this little chart a few weeks ago when I talked about this with Saquon Barkley, and then I've got some more numbers to give out. But Christian McCaffrey, who's probably the second best running back in all of football, second best, top three, no doubt about it. He signed a 4-year, $64 million extension with the Carolina Panthers. 2 years later, he was traded. Why? Because Carolina didn't have any competent quarterback play. So like, you know what? Let's move him for some pieces. Now they got Bryce Young, and we'll see how it plays out for them. He was expendable. Ezekiel Elliott was released 3 years after signing I still can't believe this, 6-year, $90 million contract. Le'Veon Bell, who played, God bless him, but he played his cards horribly in his contract negotiations with the Steelers. Released 1 year after signing a 4-year, $52.5 million contract. Alvin Kamara, you look at his production before and after he signed the deal, it's night and day. By the way, he signed a 5-year, $75 million contract extension, just for the record. Dalvin Cook, who's now, I think it's safe to say, the best free agent left in the market now that D-Hop is gone. He's released 3 years after signing a 5-year, $63 million contract extension. More on Cook and the Vikings later. Remember David Johnson? David Johnson was like the fantasy darling of 2015, 2016. You had to have David Johnson. Yeah, he was traded a year and a half after signing a 3-year, $39 million contract extension. How about this? The most productive running back over the past half decade has been Derrick Henry. Yeah, since he signed a 4-year, $50 million contract, the Titans have yet to win a playoff game. And finally, one of the greatest running backs ever, as I mentioned earlier, Adrian Peterson, signed a 7-year, $96 million contract extension, and the Vikings won 0 playoff games. In almost all of these scenarios, in almost all of these situations, what do all of them have in common? Average to below average to incompetent quarterback play in almost every instance here. I have beaten this drum for 2 years. Quarterbacks, when you talk about the rules, when you talk about the new offenses that have come into the NFL, some of them from college, quarterbacks have never been more important in the over 100-year history of the NFL. Said it starting, I remember it in the 2021 season. I'll say it today in 2023, as we're about a month and a half out of the 2023 season, is a quarterback's league. Think about this. Actually, I've got the graphic here. The last 4 Super Bowl champions. So the first Super Bowl champion in this group I'm about to mention was Mahomes' first title. We know Mahomes he's going to be running the league, for the next 10 years. Now that Brady's gone, it's Mahomes' league now officially. You'll have other guys. You'll have Burrow, you'll have Allen, maybe you'll have some other quarterbacks down the pipe who have a lot of success as well. Mahomes isn't going to win every Super Bowl and every MVP, but we understand he's going to be the face of the league moving forward. He's going to be the most successful quarterback. From the point of his first title to his most recent title, the Chiefs, obviously the reigning, defending NFL champions, I want you to take a look at where the last 4 Super Bowl title winners, let's see where they ranked in running the football. They didn't break outside of the top 20. Chiefs were 23rd in rushing in 2019. The Bucs were 28th in rushing in 2020. The Rams, 25th in rushing in 2021. And the Chiefs, most recently, the highest on this list, 20th in rushing in 2022. What does that tell you? What do all those situations have in common? All 4 of those teams got tremendous play at the quarterback position. Mahomes, coming off an MVP season, wasn't quite as good in 2019 as he was in 18, but was still very productive, had a remarkable postseason, beating the Texans, the Titans, and eventually the Niners in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady going to the Bucs at age 43, just threw a cool 40 touchdowns, beat the Commanders, or they weren't called the Commanders, they're called the football team at the time. Washington, who was it? The Saints, the Packers, and then the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford with the Rams had an unbelievable postseason, played awesome against the Cardinals, played excellent against the Bucs, played great in the fourth quarter against an amazing Niners defense, and played big time in the fourth quarter against the Cincinnati Bengals. And then last year, Mahomes was on one foot, breathtaking. Played great against the Jags, played, to me, the game of his life against the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC title game, and played an outstanding Super Bowl against one of the best defenses in the league, the Philadelphia Eagles. Something else too, and forget about winning the Super Bowl just for a moment. Let's look at recent data. I checked this. Of the top 10 rushing teams in the NFL, so the 10 teams that ran for more yards than the other 22, only 6 of them made the playoffs. Now, that's over half. We understand that. But here were some of the teams that were in top 10 and running the football. The Carolina Panthers, who, sure, they almost made the playoffs in a bad division, but they had Sam Darnold. They had Baker Mayfield at the start of the season. They had I think it was an XFL quarterback, PJ Walker. The Cleveland Browns, who had a backup quarterback in Jacoby Brissett playing the majority of the season, and then Deshaun Watson, who is a complete shell of himself from what we remembered him to be in Houston. The Atlanta Falcons, we just saw Marcus Mariota on that incredible Netflix series quarterback. Love Marcus. He's a backup quarterback. Desmond Ridder, rookie, completely in over his head. The Falcons were top 10 in rushing, though. Just remember that. And finally, the funny thing is, the team that led the NFL in rushing yards were the Chicago Bears. Yeah, running the football helped them so much, it landed them the first pick in the draft, which, of course, they traded to the Panthers. Yeah, running the football really helped those teams. Interestingly as well, of the bottom 10 rushing teams in the NFL, half of them made the playoffs. The Bucs, albeit those in a bad division, the Chargers, the Bengals, the Vikings, and the Dolphins. All 5 of those teams, bottom 10 in rushing, made the playoffs. The Bucs had Tom Brady, who was a shell of himself, we understand, his last year in the league, but had some clutch fourth quarters for the Tampa Bay. The Chargers, who have one of the most talented quarterbacks that we've seen in recent memory, in Justin Herbert. The Minnesota Vikings, who we can bang on Kirk Cousins all we want. Listen, he's not a top 10 quarterback. We can argue, is he a franchise guy? Is he not? Kirk Cousins probably had the best season of his career a year ago with, in my view, the best receiver in all football in Justin Jefferson. You could see why the Vikings, but wait, we had Dalvin Cook. We're bottom 10 in rushing. We made the playoffs. Why the heck do we have to pay him all this money? Let's just go with the kid, Alexander Mattison. Costs less, and the production isn't production dip-off isn't huge. Yeah, Vikings will be fine without Dalvin Cook. Miami Dolphins. Yeah, Dolphins, I'll tell you, they were running the football. No, they weren't, because they had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And Tua, before the injuries, injuries plural, was very productive. And most importantly, the Cincinnati Bengals were bottom 10 in the NFL in rushing, despite the fact they had Joe Mixon and an improved offensive line. Do you think they cared about that at all? No, they had the second best quarterback in all of football in Joe Burrow. They have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. And a year ago, a tight end I really like, Hayden Hurst. Simply put, this whole notion, oh, you got to run the football. You do. Yeah, listen, having a running game certainly helps. It does. But it isn't the end-all, be-all by any stretch of the imagination to forget winning the Super Bowl, just making the playoffs. The Bears led the league in rushing, and they won 3 games. So we can talk about the importance of the running back position. So no, with all due respect to, again, do I blame the running backs for wanting to get paid? Of course I don't blame them. Of course they should want their own slice of the pie. They feel as if they've earned it. Josh Jacobs just led the league in rushing last year. Of course he should want to get paid. I don't blame him in the slightest. I'd want to get paid if I were him. But these franchises are making the right decision and deciding to not eliminate the running back position, but say they're replaceable. Will the Raiders draft a running back in the future as good as Josh Jacobs? We can argue that, but good chance, probably not. Same with the Cowboys and Tony Pollard, and the Giants with Saquon. I'm almost certain they're not going to get a running back to the level that he is. But you can be highly successful in the NFL with an average to bad running game if you have good quarterback play. And all of these teams, Tampa Bay, we can argue about that, but all of the teams that made the playoffs that were bottom 5 in rushing all had tremendous quarterback play, at least in the regular season. And in the playoffs, last 4 Super Bowl champions, the highest that any of them have been ranked, highest that any of the last 4 Super Bowl champions were ranked in rushing, was this past year's Chiefs at 20th. Running the ball is not the end-all, be-all. Didn't mean for that to rhyme. To winning Super Bowls or making the playoffs, and I don't blame these franchises for not paying running backs. Not in the slightest. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.